Hi, certain events of the First World War stood out in the public consciousness, were huge propaganda opportunities and caused a great public story. The sinking of the Estonia springs to mind, but one that meant for to an empire that was actually at war was the execution of the British nurse Edith Cavell. I am Amir Hashmi. Welcome to Talash-e-Haq with Amir Hashmi, special episode of Inspirational True Story Who Lived and Died for the Human Being. The story is about World War I. I will discuss martyr Edith Cavell. Edith Louisa Cavell was born December 5, 1865 in England.
Her parents were the Reverend Frederick Cavell and the Lucia Sophia. Edith was the eldest of 4 children. She was educated in the Lyle vicarage and did not attend the local school, but later went to the Norwich High School for girls. After school, she worked as governess, and including a 5-year stint in Brussels. Before training as a nurse at the London Hospital in 1907, she was recruited as a matron of a newly established nursing school in Brussels. Although by modern standard it was anything but modern, there was no running water in the bedrooms of the 50-some old patients, or only one operating theatre. It was very successful in introducing modern nursing techniques to Belgium. When the World War I broke out, Edith was not actually in Belgium but was visiting her mother because she was widowed. Against the wishes of her family and friends, she returned to Brussels, feeling that her nursing skills would now be more needed for humanity than ever. Brussels was occupied by the German army on 20th August 1914 and wounded men, German, French, Belgians, British began to pour into the Edith clinics, which became a Red Cross hospital for all nationalities. 60 British nurses were sent home, but Edith and her assistant remained there. Over the following week, as the German invasion of Belgium continued, many Allied soldiers found themselves trapped behind enemy lines. Some were executed when they were caught, and there were a number of the atrocities against the civilians at this time. Cavell took its place herself to help British servicemen, hiding them in the hospital and in safe houses around Belgium. She helped some 200 British soldiers escape to Holland. Now she continued, of course, to work as a nurse, treating soldiers from both sides, even as the occupying German threatened strict punishment for everyone's activity, aiding and abetting the enemy. She did not tell her co-workers what she was doing, not wanting to get anyone in trouble with Germans. Though she kept in private diary, it was sewn into cushion to protect her secret life. Still in the mind of 1915, she came under suspicion, and on August 5th she was arrested and sent to Saint-Gilles prison and put in there. She would spend 10 weeks in prison, and at her trial she admitted her guilt of the crime which she was charged. She was sentenced to death. Diplomats from Spain and the United States tried to intercede to have her sentence commuted, but it was in vain. The night before her execution on October 12, 1915, she told her chaplain This, I would say, standing I do in view of God and eternity, I realize that patriotism is not enough. I must have no hatred or bitterness towards anyone. She was actually one of the group of 5 people sentenced to death. Her execution, together with the Philippe's by firing squad, was carried out early in the morning. She completed her diary with the entry, died at 7 a.m. on 12th October 1915. Here is the thing, Cavell were sentenced on 11th, the only one day before the execution was carried out. She was sentenced to death along her associates, and Cavell herself did not find out she was to be shot until 8:30 the night of the 11th. See Generals von Soberweg, the Germany military governor of the Brussels, figured that if he hurried the execution, the media would not pick up on it. But he was wrong. The moment Edith, the nurse, died, Edith Cavell, the heroine, and the murder was born. The American embassy, among others, made sure that the story was widely spread, and it was hyped in both the British and American media, where Cavell was portrayed as a murderer, and those who executed her as a murdering monsters. This was, in point of the fact, contrary to Cavell's own last wishes, when she specifically said she did not wish to be remembered as either a murderer or heroine, but simply as a nurse doing her duty. Over the following 2 months, Cavell's fate helped double recruiting in the Britain, and her name became one of the Britain wartime rallying symbols. Hey, here is the side note. You can take anyone any way you like. That same autumn, the French executed 2 German nurses who were helping German soldiers escape, and when asked when they did not publicize the similarity to Cavell's execution, the German High Command replied, "Why complain? The French has a perfect right to shoot them." After the war, Cavell's body was taken back to Britain for a memorial service at Westminster Abbey and transferred to the Norwich to be laid the rest at Life's Green on the east side of the cathedral. The king had to grant exceptions to an order that prevented any burials in the grounds of the cathedral to allow Cavell's reburials in the Church of the England calendars of the saints. The day appointed for the commemorations of the Edith Cavell's on the 12th October. This is a memorial in her honor, though, and not any sort of the formal canonization, and so not a Saint fast day in a traditional sense. And following Cavell's death, many memorials were created around the world to remember her. One of the first was unveiled on October 1918 by Queen Alexandra on the grounds of the Norwich Cathedral during the open ceremony for a home for nurses, which also bore Edith Cavell's name. The first film made of the story was 1916 Australian silent film The Martyrdom of Nurse Cavell. She is also been honoured by the Mount Edith Cavell in the Jasper National Park. Her strong belief and conviction on the humanity motivated her to help all those in need, both German and Allied soldiers. She once said, "I cannot stop while there are lives to be saved." But of course, no one remembers that today, do they? It's a question. Her execution by the German remains one of the most more shocking episodes of the First World War and they received worldwide condemnations and extensive press coverage. And well, you have many beliefs her execution to be justified or not. It showcased the effect propaganda could have upon civilian, but also the effect the war itself was having on civilian in the actual theatres of war. The action taken civilians in Belgium in August and September 1914 are often called the rape of Belgium. And you can say, covering that right there. Dears, don't forget to subscribe my channel and push the icon button. See you next time. Bye.